50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
This is classic Trump. We have 4 days left, and all of a sudden there's a laptop. There's overwhelming evidence that from the intelligence community that the Russians are engaged.
I still think that the stories from the fall about your son Hunter were Russian disinformation and a smear campaign, like you said.
Yes. It's a last-ditch effort in this desperate campaign to smear me and my family. The vast majority of the intelligence people have come out and said there's no basis at all.
Oh, but that is not the truth, is it? Welcome back to the program. Dana Loesch here with you at the bottom of this second hour. That's not the truth, is it? Joining us right now, Congressman Jim Jordan from Ohio's 4th District. And you know Congressman Jordan is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. He's on the House Oversight Committee, Weaponization of Government Committee, and he's been digging for answers and coming up with some really interesting things. Congressman, always a pleasure to have you on. So the way that we're seeing it from what your committee has released is you have all these, the signatories of that letter that said, all of this was just Russian disinformation. And they were falsely accusing everyone reporting on this laptop of being basically, Russian propagandists circulating Russian disinfo. But now we're learning that it was actually organized by a former not just a regular CIA official, the former acting director of the CIA, deputy director of the CIA, at the request of Joe Biden's campaign to help him win the election.
Yeah, not only was the information not accurate, when Joe Biden presented it in that debate, that all-important debate, October 22nd, 2020, when he presented it as if it was organic, as if it just sprung up, and these guys on their own initiative all put this together and wanted to do it, when in fact it was prompted by then campaign advisor, now Secretary of State Tony Blinken, who contacted Mike Morrell and said, what do you think about this? Got Morrell working on this. Morrell researches it, gets the other 50 people to sign it. And then the kicker was Biden used it in the debate. When we deposed Mike Morrell, by the way, Dana, when we deposed him, we asked him, why'd you do it? He says, we wanted Biden to win. We want him to have something to use during the debate because we thought President Trump would bring it up. Well, of course he was going to bring it up. It was a huge story. And that's why they did it. And then after the debate, when Joe Biden uses it, guess what happened? Steve Ricchetti, campaign chairman of the Biden campaign, gets on the phone with Mike Morrell and thanks him for what was put together and what Joe Biden was able to use during that debate.
That is
all political.
Unbelievable. And as we know, the contents of this laptop have been verified, and they've been verified even by the Washington Post and the New York Times and everyone else. Yeah. So they've said before that they knew that this was real, and they signed the letter anyway.
Yeah, they still thought they were. To Morrell, when we had the deposition, he thought he still believes and thought then it was the Russians were somehow involved. And they put it together, but it was done solely because they wanted Biden to be able to use it. They wanted Joe Biden to win the election. And we know now from polling data that if this letter was used as the way to further suppress the story, and social media wouldn't let you share it, wouldn't let you like it, wouldn't let you send it around. They blocked out the New York Post altogether. And we know from polling that people said if we were able to get access to that story, if that would have been actually a bigger part of the campaign, it may have changed the outcome of the election. So that was the real kicker there, is what they did. This letter was the final stamp on this process of suppressing the whole New York Post story about the Biden laptop.
Wow. We're talking with Congressman Jim Jordan about these bombshells that have been coming out from their investigation into this whole story. Now, am I correct in reading that Morrell was trying to throw Antony Blinken under the bus for this?
No, he would just tell us the facts. When you come in for a transcribed interview in Congress, you're under oath. You have to tell the truth. And Mike Morrell told us the truth. He was straight up about this when we talked to him, as we convey in our letter. And he said it was prompted. He was contacted by that same day on the 17th. So the story comes out on the 14th of October, 2020. 17th is when Blinken first contacts Morrell. Later that same day on the 17th, Antony Blinken sends him a news story about this, a USA Today story about this issue. And all that gets Morrell, as I said, on the 18th and 19th, putting this together. The 19th is when the statement goes public. And it goes public again, Dana, with everyone's title associated with their name. So as you pointed out, It's former director of CIA, former director of ODNI, all former worked in CIA on the Eurasian and the Russian. It puts all the, and it gives it this weight as if, oh, this has to be true, when in fact it wasn't. And it was coordinated with the Biden campaign. In fact, Morell was even instructed by the Biden campaign, here's the journalist we'd like you to first give this information, give the statement to. And I think it was a total political operation.
And then we have the New York Post story, how AG Merrick Garland is because there's this story with Mike Morell in this testimony, and then we have this IRS whistleblower where he's been outed as the senior Biden official in this Hunter Biden IRS whistleblower came. The timing of this is kind of interesting too, because they went right to you all. This whistleblower did follow the path and follow the proper protocol, went to you all to blow the whistle on this. It's very interesting timing. Tell us about this. Why do you think now?
Well, I do think it's interesting that they did the letter, and I would think, and they approached it this way. I think this is probably because one of the things we're getting feedback from other folks in the government who've come to us and talked to us as whistleblowers is they feel like they're being retaliated against. And I think now when you do a letter like this to various ranking members and chairmen in the Congress, I think that shows like, okay, this guy wants to make sure he's not going to get retaliated against, and the facts and the truth get out there. So we plan on looking at this along with the Ways and Means Committee in the House and making sure we get all the information from this guy, another brave whistleblower willing to come forward and talk about how our government hasn't been operating in the way it's supposed to.
The NBC, talking with Congressman Jim Jordan, NBC had a report where they were saying that federal prosecutors have considered 4 possible charges on Hunter Biden. Apparently, this case was submitted a year ago, but yet they haven't filed charges. And this is, what you all have been alluding to when you're saying, people are dragging their feet. What possibly could be the explanation as to why there have not been any charges filed in this case?
I do not know. I do not know. And again, as we all know, they've had the laptop since 2019. Yeah. So I don't know why. We'll just have to wait and see. And we look forward to talking to the whistleblower and hearing the facts and the information he has to give to us.
Yeah, we're talking with Congressman Jim Jordan, and they had former CIA acting director, deputy CIA director as well, Mike Morell, who was testifying and discussing his involvement with this letter. 51, I think, signatories on this. Yep. No apologies from many of these people who signed this letter, who were trying to dodge association, trying to separate the Biden campaign from this. I mean, this is the collusion. If there's any kind of collusion that's happening, if there's any kind of attempt to put weight on the scales of a free and fair election, it's this. Yeah, no apologies, but they did get an attaboy from the Biden campaign. Yeah, they did. And on October 22nd, when just according to, it was like following the script. Let's get this letter together. When it gets used in the debate, and Biden acts like it's organic and didn't have any their campaign didn't have any impact on it or any influence on it. They get an attaboy from the campaign chair. So it's I guess we should have kind of figured this was what was going on. It seems like sometimes this is how the Democrats tend to operate. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, and the fact that was. Oh, go ahead, Congressman. Sorry. No, I was just going to say, and the fundamental fact is it was inaccurate. They said it has all the earmarks of all the hallmarks of a Russian information operation. It wasn't. But that became the basis again for the suppression that was already underway by social media. But this was the final step, and then they kept it from the American people. Before I ask you about Alvin Bragg, there's related to this, just because the ongoing accusations and corruptions of the Biden family and the accusations that they've been using, his elected office to enrich in his family. Does that make you suspicious of, like, for instance, when he went to Ireland last week and he took his son, Hunter Biden, which I think is kind of embarrassing to take, when you're going on that a high profile of a trip like that, and his sister with him, with all the accusations of family involvement in, the Biden family business, does that make you suspicious? I don't know. What I do know is what Chairman Comer is digging into. I do know that there are, just this unbelievable number of suspicious activity reports that our Treasury Department has filed about the Biden family banking operations and these LLCs and their business operations.
And I always tell people, they're called suspicious activity reports for a reason, and there are literally hundreds of them, it appears now. So Mr. Comer and the Oversight Committee are going to dig into this and get the facts out there. I do think it makes you wonder about certain things and certain actions you see, but I always wait to make sure that we, let's get the facts and the truth before we make any real allegations.
Right. And of course, Congressman, you had subpoenaed the ex-assistant district attorney, Mark Pomerantz, to give testimony about Alvin Bragg's investigation into former President Trump. And of course, we had that whole indictment theater just last month. So Bragg was trying to sue you, and he filed suit against you in the Judiciary Committee, saying that it was overreach, but he got slammed down. A judge said that it was a valid legislative purpose and that it was not the role. They were saying that the subpoena was issued with valid purpose, and basically Bragg was in the wrong. Pomerantz has to appear for this congressional deposition. Tell me about this, because I mean, it's finally good to see at least some judge rein in some of these activist DAs.
Well, I think you characterized it accurately, Dana. And if you get a chance to read this opinion and this decision from the court, it couldn't have been stronger in our favor. So we do expect Mr. Pomerantz to sit for a deposition sometime in the very, very near future. We are coordinating how that will work out with his counsel, but we expect that to happen, and we got a number of questions that we want to ask. Some of those questions I think relate to, what kind of interaction may have existed between the DA's office and the Justice Department, the Biden Justice Department, the Biden White House, the Biden administration. We don't know. But we want to, and then there's a whole book that Mr. Pomerantz has written. He left a year ago. He's now written a book. We want to get into some of the comments he made in the book, and the judge was very clear. The court was very clear that is totally fair game and within our area to ask about.
That blows my mind. I have to add that you basically tell on yourself in a book after that is completely fair game for this. That's a cell phone that, you couldn't make up. Congressman Jim Jordan, we really appreciate everything that you're doing in the House. I mean, you are the perfect person for this time and this mission. And you've been doing a really good job at pursuing answers that we've been waiting for a long time. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Of course.
Take care. Thank
it.
you.
You too.